What are we gonna do?
Guess we'll have to ask Josh to get us in.
All right, let's go back to the basement.
Okay, I gotta add. Jesus Christ. Gotta add Kevin Spacey. There's not enough space on here. There's so many white men on this white sheet. So I'll put Kevin Spacey here. That gives a really good correlation with Casey Affleck, because they're both terrible, terrible people. George Bush can line up perfectly with Bryan Singer. We all know why. Louis C.K. Louis C.K. stands on his own. He's just awful. I don't know. Fuck. Okay. Let's think. It's gotta send a clear message to everyone that no white males are allowed. Oh, Brie Larson. Hi. I'm trying so hard. I don't know how you do it.
I don't get it, man. Why can't we get in? I don't know. I just want to see fucking Captain Marvel. It's fucking bullshit. What's up, Josh?
Yo.
Not hit hair.
What's up, guys?
Not too much, man. We just tried to get into Captain Marvel. They wouldn't let us in. It's bullshit.
Oh, that's crazy.
They said we can't see it because we're white males.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's 2019 and we're dealing with this.
Yep, that's tough, guys. I don't know what it's like to not be welcomed into a space.
What were you working on?
No, it's nothing. It's totally nothing.
I just don't understand it. Why can't we see this movie? I mean, I'm not a homophobe. I'm not a misogynist. I'm not a gay hater. I'm not a woman hater. I'm not a black hater. I mean, I'm married. You know, I can't be a misogynist. I'm not a woman hater. I'm not a Negro hater.
Yeah, I mean, I don't tell you, man. Like, sometimes, maybe, just maybe, hear me out. Like, some things should be experienced for some people. And, like, sometimes you just gotta have that.
No.
Yeah, like people who love Marvel, which is Addison. He should be able to experience this. You're right.
Marvel is my favorite thing on the planet.
That's what you mean, right?
No, I mean more like celebrating different people that aren't men who are like white. Maybe that's a positive thing sometimes.
No.
Look, you gotta get us in. I don't care. You gotta get us in.
I can't.
I have to see this movie. Can you just...
It would mean the world to him.
Can you just ask at the next meeting if it would be okay? Can you let them know that I have a black friend?
Okay, if there is a them, what are they going to say when I tell them that I let two white men into Captain Marvel? Thanks? They're going to say thanks?
Look, I'll smear some dirt on my face. I'll do whatever it takes.
Ah, fuck it. Okay, let's do it.
Let's get this Marvel bread. Black hater. Hello. Welcome to episode 34 of To Be Honest. I'm Addison.
I'm Jackson.
And I am no longer associated with these two white men.
But your name, please, sir.
Oh, Josh.
Thank you. And we saw Captain Marvel, the new Marvel film starring Brie Larson.
Addison, do you have some things to say? I feel like you have a lot of like research done for this movie.
Well, so what I found to be most interesting about this movie before we saw it is the kind of cultural conversation that arose surrounding it.
What was that?
Well, basically, this movie has been targeted by the what's the term for it? Incels, the alt-right, the 4chan
yeah.
autists,
Which is a dangerous crowd to rustle up because they control the internet. Mm-hmm. And
they do. Well, as far as like the more nefarious aspects of the internet are concerned, the doxing, also, the things like that,
they can organize themselves very fast against a certain thing. Like they've proven that through like online polls where they sent who's the daddy worldwide. Anyways, they sent like the rapper to Alaska because he had like an online poll where he was like, choose where I'm gonna have my next show.
Oh yes, and they had like Taylor Swift had a contest and they got like literally her most neck beard like stalkerish person to be like part of anyway.
Also, they had she's like, where should I play my show? And there was a school for the deaf.
yes, and Bodie McBoatface, like all of these different things.
Also, the Mountain Dew Hitler did nothing wrong.
the delicious flavor Hitler did nothing wrong.
You guys seem well versed in what's going on with 4chan.
Look, I'm not literally a content creator for 4chan or anything, so I don't want you to get it twisted.
Any of that shit.
Addison also goes by Anon.
It's amazing what white men can do when they're angry and have internet access.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong in the least bit.
History is rich with stories of that very thing happening. So anyway, so their Jimmy's got rustled, right? These 4chan autists, and the reason for that is because Brie Larson, who is the star of this film, she plays Captain Marvel. She on the on the interview circuit for promoting the movie, she made it a point that she wasn't going to talk to any white male journalists.
Right.
She was seeking out people of color, disabled people, queer people, all of these things because she felt like they deserved as much of a shot at talking to a big, movie star as any cisgendered white male.
Did you read the direct quote or watch the video where she said this?
I read the direct quote. It was in an article, an interview that was conducted by a queer, disabled person of color, hit all of the marks, and basically
Brie Larson's checklist.
That's her Christmas wish list.
And so she sought this person out, and the person was extremely, grateful that she chose them to do the interview because they also pointed out, typically this is something that would go to your average white male journalist.
Right. There's established people who get those, like, interviews and get those conversations.
Correct. And just the fact that the two words were paired together, white male, that seems to be like the big bone of contention that really stuck in everyone's craw.
Oh, they didn't like that.
They did not like that.
Okay.
They did not like that. So,
interesting.
So after they did this interview, then this kind of like story behind the scenes started brewing that Marvel was posturing this movie to be like an SJW film, that it was like a fuck you to white males, essentially.
It had like a crusade almost.
Yes.
Against white men.
Yes, right. Like this was just another nail in the coffin that would ensure that white males lose their position of power.
And they would never succeed. They can't succeed as long as Marvel keeps making movies.
Right. So, and then of course, people spring up all over the place. James Woods, the actor James Woods, he tweeted, like, we shouldn't support this SJW bullshit. Like, if you want to see a real female-centric, strong film, then you should see Alita: Battle Angel. And then it came down to all of the 4chan people being like, yeah, we need to protest, boycott Captain Marvel, and we're all going to go see Alita this weekend. So on one hand, it might be interesting to see if Alita's, box office numbers are kind of boosted
their numbers
by this.
tick up a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. And will they be glad for that? I don't know.
Oh, we got to make 6 more of these? Fuck. Marshall Ali, suit up. Let's go.
Well, I love you, Marshall.
And what's that? underestimating who I am.
And so, there were some other interesting things that happened as a result of this. Like Rotten Tomatoes altered their policy as far as being able to user review a movie before it was released. You can no longer do that. The movie has to be out in order for you to cast your vote.
Right, because typically it's user reviews first, and then once the movie's released, then the critic reviews come in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay. And the user reviews are also always based off nothing. Because they haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
But what they're deciding to do collectively is to rally against it. And a good example of that is Ghostbusters 2016. Right. That movie got like the lowest user score in Rotten Tomatoes history, and this was like weeks, months. And
have either of you seen that?
I haven't, and honestly, I have no interest.
No. Me neither.
And it's not for the reasons why the movie was rallied against. I don't care that it's an all-female cast. I saw the trailer and it looked fucking stupid. It looked completely unfunny. And pretty much the reviews that came in after that proved that. It was just
like a dime a dozen type of like improv comedy type movie.
It was a Paul Feig movie. So it was fucking loose improvisation. It was like, that was kind of funny. It made me smirk. It's staying in. Next scene. Let's move on.
Exactly.
Oh my God, what was that?
So I like, there's some very interesting things that happen as a result of this movie, and I think it's interesting with the juggernaut of media that Marvel is currently. I think it's interesting to see it face this kind of backlash because it's typically just widely embraced. Everybody loves the Marvel shit. Right. I mean, even Black Panther, which I'm no.
Why'd you point at Josh when he said that?
Because he's black.
So Black Panther's interesting. Not to cut you off, but so when that movie came out, people were upset, and I think there was the same like bubbling underneath the surface type of reaction where a lot of the alt-right, I was gonna say alt-J, a lot of the alt-J fans and who are predominantly alt-right were upset about Black Panther, and so they try to restructure the narrative so that Wakanda represents Trump's America, where that's what the movie is really all about.
Oh my God.
Because they like keep everybody out and they want to keep all this technology in, and that's like
they have a giant wall.
Right.
What you're saying is making sense here.
Vagina wall. I thought you said they got a vagina wall.
They got a vagina wall.
That's my favorite kind of wall.
I wish I knew what it felt like.
I was trying to make a legitimate point.
I know,
and I appreciate you hijacking this conversation. No, that was just
where was this? This is like a 4chan thing, or
just all over the internet. People were, because they're like, all black cast, all black crew. They're like directed by a black guy. There's no way that Marvel's turning into this social justice warrior like platform.
Well, and it was a critical darling as well. When Black Panther came out, critics loved it. Which I have a standing theory. Art house Marvel movie. I have a standing theory. I call it the Black Panther theory, which is that
the
BPT, which not to be confused, but which is that like critics were not faced with any other option than to give Black Panther a positive review score because it was the first Marvel movie that had, as you said, black cast, black filmmaker, all those people behind the scenes, and they were like, we're not going to be the ones, like, we've given Marvel movies good grades up to this point, why are we going to break that mold with Black Panther?
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
So I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I think Black Panther is just painfully average. It's not a bad movie.
It's decent.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's decent. It has, the things that you're looking for generally in a Marvel movie.
It's competently made.
Yeah, but did it break the mold? Did it do something different than other Marvel movies before it? No.
So the bad guys in that scenario are the critics because they put it up on a pedestal and they lied.
I'm outraged.
And then they lied!
But because I'm about to turn around here... But this movie was actually like kind of rated fairly, I would say. I think it was like a 55% before it came out.
You mean critically? Okay.
Captain Marvel.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Because like they didn't try to like blow it out of proportion by any means.
Yeah, do you think like there's I don't know because the Oscar nominations I thought maybe it's Black History Month when Black Panther came out like everyone's just riding this wave, and then like they'll die down they'll it'll get like a Golden Globe or something, and then that's it. We don't need to talk about it. But then the Oscar nominations went through, and it's just like parading across the whole award show, and it's like I thought maybe like they were gonna dial back a little bit and say like we want to like up front say like we love this movie, but we're not gonna talk about it anymore, and they were really pushing it forward throughout the entire year.
I would say like as far as the Oscars went as like for the awards that I paid attention to, which was like best costume. And kind of like,
because
production.
You're a tailor,
stuff.
aren't you?
Yeah, you really.
I'm a
love
tailor.
costumes.
I'm sewing all day. Like it wasn't like out of the question that they would win like best costume for that.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like it was like the Oscars necessarily like fumbled it. Like they didn't give it best picture.
Sure.
Which was when it was like gonna be like way out of hand. Like if you gave a really basic superhero movie,
but
it's been done before, best picture, like no, like
I mean, I guess I was just more surprised that they would even put it in the category of Best Picture. Like,
yes, that is surprising.
Which still, you have to have that conversation going up all the way to the Oscars. You're constantly talking about Black Panther.
Hey, look, Green Book won Best Picture.
Sure.
And we haven't seen the movie, to be fair.
Thank God.
So we can't judge it fairly.
Mm-hmm.
But from the previews that I've seen and some of the things that I've read about it, as far as like they completely botched this dude's biography, they completely ignored his family. They didn't even like get permission, and the family was pissed. This is the Mahershala character, the subject of the film, and then it was directed by fucking Peter Farrelly.
Yeah.
Of the Farrelly brothers. Like I'm guessing
they do?
I'm guessing the Academy just wanted to make up for
Dumb and Dumber.
something about Mary not getting the Academy Award for Best Picture. No, I mean that to me was enough to know that whatever's going on in the Academy is fucking bullshit.
So that concludes our review of Captain Marvel.
Well, so from that perspective, and this is going to sound dangerous at first. Please bear with me. From that perspective, I can somewhat understand why people would be kind of mad about Captain Marvel. If these movies that don't really necessarily have the pedigree, the actual quality to be awarded Best Picture or whatever, but yet they're nominated and they win.
Right.
I guess I can see that perspective because I think that's fucking nuts that Green Book won Best Picture. There are way better movies that we saw last year, not many, but a few, that easily could have beaten out Green Book in my Green Book for Best Picture of the year.
I mean, that does kind of bring it back to what we are, I guess, talking about for the ratings for Captain Marvel, where I thought maybe this whole, like, the critics are essentially bracing themselves so they're not too overreactive. Which it seems like that's the case. It seems like they're kind of like hedging their bets in terms of how much they praise this movie.
That's absolutely true. I mean, this is a much more measured approach to film criticism than we saw with Black Panther, which was in the high 80s on Metacritic.
90s.
Well, when it first came out, it was 100%.
Yes.
And for like a month, probably.
Yes.
It was 100%. And
which is when it matters.
I think it ended up at 88. I seem to remember 88 in my mind as far as what Black Panther ended up with.
Which is pretty nuts.
I remember when we saw it, it was like a solid 97, 98, and I was like, this movie's going to change everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I was actually
what
excited.
That score reflects. It's like, this is a groundbreaking movie.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's that, like, Marvel is known for entertaining movies. It's not known for like cinema. It's not the epitome of cinema. So like when you see 98, you're like, oh, this is different than any other Marvel movie. It's gone above and beyond. It's artistic. And for all accounts, it has a lot of artistry in it, but it's not. And it's a very traditional Marvel movie.
He leaves. Mtutaka! What's up? I never yielded! And as you can see, I am not dead!
So anyways, the point being that I think that there's a very interesting cultural conversation going on around this movie. I think it's interesting that Marvel, which has previously been a darling of just about everybody loves Marvel movies, is now the subject of this kind of derision. And I think it's interesting. It's a like microcosm of what's actually going on in the world and in our country right now. And I just think it's really surprising that this stupid Marvel movie it brings it to the surface again.
What? Yeah, I guess one note, just one last thing.
Sure.
I wouldn't say it's super interesting that a bunch of white men are taking to the streets. Not interesting in the way that
it's expected.
Like, it's expected,
Yes.
right? And seeing this movie, like, they kind of are right. We'll talk about it, but there are like anxieties and their fear of like this is going to be a pandering movie for certain ideals. Not that that's bad.
Well, it's bad in the sense that the only times that I woke up during this movie were during the scenes that they were obviously pandering just so I could cringe.
Yeah.
Because it's just a really poorly written, boring movie.
Right, and the writing is what kicks off like my frustration with this movie,
Yes.
which is the intro, which is like this really long sequence
So convoluted.
of like these like Brie Larson wakes up. Her name is what's her name?
Carol Danvers.
Vers is
Vers in this part of the
in
movie.
Hala
correct.
or whatever. She wakes up. She's having these weird dreams.
She's in the Kree city. The Kree is this like technologically advanced race. The villain the villain from I think Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Guardians of the Galaxy
so.
movie. He's like part of the Kree race.
blue guy, yeah.
The blue guy. So yeah,
We love Marvel.
That's part of the background of the movie.
Yeah, but so she wakes up and Jude Law, who's looking fucking in shape. They
so
fight. They
hot.
have a weird fight scene,
Which was just after watching The Matrix like a month ago. It was so fucking Neo and Morpheus as far as
Yes.
like control your emotions, Neo.
Yeah, they're like having like this like conversation that's not obviously about the fight that they're having. It's like really, really like elementary writing. Like like it's just, and then they cut to like they're going into a mission,
Which would like,
but it takes a long time to get there.
the first probably 15-20 minutes of the movie are pure Marvel. Like everyone's wearing the silly costumes.
Yeah.
They're all on this like self-important mission. They have this futuristic technology.
I think it's more DC than Marvel.
That's interesting.
Because there is zero fucking story going on during the beginning of this movie. It's like a bumper cars of plot points where you're just like, okay, she seems to have some sort of connection between Jude Law. Okay, we're going to kick you back into a flashback scene. Okay, you don't know who she is, so you're not connected to this main character at all.
So I got to get something out of the way real quick.
Okay, go for it.
I kind of like this movie.
Okay, all right. Damn, Addison.
So
I did.
When did you decide to be wrong?
I kind of like this movie. Now,
Jackson's in the middle of a I like this movie sandwich.
I agree with you that
Okay.
as far as like the dialogue is concerned, the script is not great. However, I do think that the structure of the script was interesting. It totally no. It didn't reinvent, but it at least tried to improve upon the formula for origin stories that Marvel has had in the past, which is very,
By not having one?
Shut up and let me finish. You have
get your shots in.
like the the initial scenes. Oh, he's a loser or whatever. Then you have the acquisition of power. Then you have the denial of power. Then you have the first test. Then you have the building of power. Right, the realization of your powers. Then you have the second to final confrontation. Then you have like the heartwarming thing of like, oh wait, the strength was really inside us and it was friendship. And then you have
your purpose.
And then you have your purpose, and then you have your final confrontation. Boom, credits roll.
So
over.
what did this movie do right?
This movie had an interesting structure in that it kept us kind of in the dark for a minute. For probably the first 45 minutes to an hour, I was honestly trying to put the puzzle pieces together. And there was some clever mechanics that they used. They manipulated us, essentially.
So I wanna add. So the opening scene, we have the battle. Jesus fucking.
You're so bad at podcasts.
That's your arch enemy. You're a superhero fighting here.
Get out of here! Okay, so in the scene, so we have Brie Larson kind of getting established as like who she is. She's a hothead. She like can't control her emotions, and which is what a hothead is.
She's a jokester.
She makes jokes. She's quippy, and she doesn't listen to authority, which is pretty much all what a hothead is. She's Kirk. She's Captain Kirk.
Yeah,
but so the whole getting caught by the Kree folk. Or not Kree. What are they called? The green bitches.
the Skrillex.
Skrillex.
Yes,
Is
that really what they're called?
no, I think they're called the Scream or something like that.
What is that from? Like Land of the Lost.
I think it's more maybe from like Rick and Morty. The episode where they have the purge episode where they point and they go like. Rah!
Right.
Anyways,
so everything up to that was extremely boring, and I was like, oh man, this is like, what is the point of this? And it was like 15 minutes probably, maybe 10
the
12
first
minutes.
part of it, dude, I was already checked out. I was
Yeah.
like, this movie's gonna fucking suck. It's gonna be boring as fuck. But
when she gets caught, and then they're extracting shit from her memories,
yes.
I'm like, well, none of this makes sense. And they were even saying like, there's a voiceover of them like, well, this is all very confusing, which was bad dialogue, but. I was like, oh, that is confusing. Why is she a child on Earth? Like, where is she? And I think there is something to say about getting left in the dark. And I think it could have been done better. But I was confused, and I was interested after that part. And I think that kind of woke me back up because I was ready to just give up on this movie.
This movie is bookended by dog shit, right? You've got like 15 minutes of suck, and then you've got about 20 minutes of suck, beginning and end. In the middle... I was fairly invested.
So, Skrulls are the bad guys.
I was actually pretty interested in what was going on. Again, not because the script was great or anything like that, but the way that they told the story held my attention.
Okay, well then what's the next thing after her, like she kind of sees weird shit in her memory, and that like triggers something. She's like, none of this makes sense. Where am I? Like, who am I from? Or where am I from?
And then she gets crash landed on planet C-53, aka
right.
planet Earth. And then
we're just a number.
She meets up with Sam Jackson and some of the other supporting characters, and then the movie kind of goes from there.
It goes from there. It's kind of just like tumbles out.
Okay.
It's like rolling all over the ground.
Whatever you want to say. I thought this movie was kind of refreshing from the standpoint that, like, I liked having Sam Jackson as the supporting character here, despite the fact that he was digitally de-aged, which was kind of...
His face was digitally de-aged,
yeah.
But then his every body movement looked like he was, like, 65 years old. He's,
yes.
like, walking around like...
But he was also a comic relief. Did that comedy land for you?
Not really, no. I mean, I kind of enjoyed and appreciated it as a cat dad. His relationship with the Furkin, or whatever the fuck its name is, which isn't Furkin like the subsection of furries who like literally identify as these things outside of when they're in their costume.
I haven't heard that, but I'll believe anything at this point.
We just prefer fur. We prefer fur.
Sir, I apologize. So,
please call me Feeling.
One comparison I want to make with this movie...
Go for it.
Logan.
How so?
I felt like... So the people who directed this movie, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck.
Firkin?
Fleck.
Okay. On Fleek?
These are...
Why are you appropriating my culture?
People still say that, right?
This is why we don't let white men in.
This is why white men are not allowed. All right, continue.
So these two, up to this point, were serious indie directors.
Like what?
Well, the only movie of theirs that I've seen is called Half Nelson. They also directed a movie called Mississippi Grind that was pretty well received.
Oh, Half Nelson is a great movie.
Half Nelson with Ryan Gosling,
yes,
right?
I love Half Nelson.
Yeah, where he's the crack-addicted like high school math teacher or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really good. Did we watch it together?
I think I found it on Netflix.
Okay, because I do actually own it on DVD, but
it is a great movie.
It's really good. It's really good, and I feel like that sensibility was brought to this movie, and that they weren't hesitant to let the quiet moments breathe a little bit. And
what quiet moments
well,
are you referring to?
like for example, the moments where she reconnects with her friend from the Air Force who has the daughter, right? And she and Sam Jackson are kind of like hiding out in their little ranch. It reminded me a lot of the part in Logan where he and Professor X find that family and they hide out in their farm thing, whatever, and they're like, oh wow, this is like what a real family is, and like this is what real love is, and like the things that we were trying to create outside of this as a family, whatever, is kind of bullshit because you can't fabricate family. That was one of the morals I took away from Logan.
So I could see like how that scene has value, but what ruined it for me was first the dialogue in this movie was kind of trash. Like I felt like it was really like just fumbling along and didn't resonate at all.
May I ask you a question, not to interrupt you?
Go for it.
What did you think as far as like this movie was not subject to the traditional Marvel humor of like serious cutaway to the goofy character whose bottom is covered with butterscotch and you know,
Wow.
how did this happen?
I fell in a bottle of butterscotch. So I like. Did you say it was exempted from that?
What I'm saying is that that the humor in this movie wasn't necessarily reliant on that same kind of like
totally
cutaway
disagree.
gag that most Marvel movies are.
Maybe they didn't have a cutaway gag, but they tried to inject some like I would say pretty close to the traditional brand of Marvel humor, where you have this cat. Oh, the cat is my weapon. You know, it's a gag. It's a really cheap gag, and I rolled my eyes every attempt at this movie's attempt at humor. It was awful.
I was getting like anxious.
Name one thing that's funny in this movie.
Jackson got so fucking mad watching this movie. He was just constantly.
It's one thing about like not being funny, and then there's another thing about making me listen to people laugh about things that aren't funny.
So that was the thing. I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Go for it.
At the first time that happened, because there is like that exchange, whether it's like Brie Larson, Sam Jackson, and like they laugh. Like Brie Larson has like an infectious laugh, or just a charming.
I thought
she's a
Brie
charming
Larson
person.
was really charming in this movie.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
Wow, people see a big pair of tits and a 9 Inch Nails shirt, and all of a sudden they think it's a great movie.
Oh yeah,
That makes me uncomfortable, and I'm the guy that said Negro.
said it again.
Okay, I have a point of contention because you're like, there was a moment of serious funny when Jude Law comes. He's like, hold on, can't we just like amicably end this? He like reaches out.
Yeah, at the very end.
moment
Spoiler.
Of like, let's have a
get a
reconciliation.
spoiler.
We're just gonna have a fist-to-fist fight here, and then she's just like, yeah, sure, and then she shoots him back to the rock.
That was cheap.
That was classic Marvel.
That was cheap
Classic
humor.
Marvel
I
humor.
totally get it.
Yeah,
I totally
it
understand.
sucked. And that was a crescendo.
The Marvel fingerprints are on this movie. Okay, don't get me wrong. There are trademarks of Marvel here. However, I do feel like the I guess the heritage of these filmmakers who are used to making very quiet, subtle indie movies.
Okay.
I kind of saw that influence in this movie.
Where?
In many of the time, like not the things that you're pointing out, where it's like, oh, let's have a fist fight man to man. No, photon blast. Phew. Oh, ha 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 ha. No, that's all typical bullshit. But like the scenes where she's having like real conversations with her friends, she's having real conversations with Sam Jackson. I felt like there was an indie quality to it, if only in the framing.
Sorry, I have to do this.
The
Too.
framing, the cinematography. There were some indie touches to this movie that, in my mind, anyways, distinguished it from other Marvel films.
You put the words in my mouth. I wasn't quite sure how to, I guess, vocalize it or put words to it. When she's first in LA, she's looking at a map. She's trying to find a place. She's looking at a map, and some douchebag guy on a motorcycle comes up. So, won't you smile for me? There's a shot. It's just a shot where she's looking at the map, but we see her face looking at the map, and there's like field in the background, and I'm like, It's a really like unique shot. It's a pretty shot. It's not like they're in a studio. Like it felt genuine and it felt authentic.
So it looks good. Is it a good scene, though?
There's certain shots.
There were moments of this movie that felt real. That felt really good.
I cringed at that scene. Okay, so this movie, hold on.
Okay, please.
I'm just gonna try to sum it up. You're out of the shot now.
Who cares?
He doesn't care. So I had this weird culmination of cringing at scenes and also feeling good about them. Like the laughing thing. They would laugh after a joke that isn't funny. And the first time it happened, I was like, I like physically just clenched up, like every part of me. And then it kept happening and I felt more okay with it. And I understood what its purpose was. And but at the same time, recognizing that like it wasn't executed well enough. And still acknowledging that like, this is establishing character. They're building relationships and I'm okay with it. And I was able to like kind of just accept that.
I thought the dynamics were well established between them.
I think
Between who?
I think they're established.
Between like Nick Fury and Captain Marvel, for example, I felt like they had a pretty good chemistry between the two of them, Alison Brie and Samuel L. Jackson.
Your life began the day it nearly ended. We found you with no memory. We made you one of us, so you could live longer, stronger, superior.
So there are lines of dialogue. There's a couple times at which the movie is actively pointing towards this
not a couple.
SJW agenda as far as like
more than a couple awkward lines.
Yes. So I would say
Addison.
Let me just finish my thought.
All right.
Let me just finish my thought. There are a couple lines in specific regard to the SJW shit.
Okay.
To which 4chan objected. The motorcycle scene's a great example where he's like, "Hey, little lady, you need some help?" And she's like, "Fuck you." The woman next to me loved it, lapped that shit up.
Yeah.
That's the easy shit. That's
so
easy to
easy.
do. That's so easy to do.
that's my problem with it. Is because they pick the bottom apple, which I wouldn't even say SJW shit because this movie's about a woman superhero. Why wouldn't they include something about her experience as a woman? But why would you have the most obvious scene where some guy's just like, "Hey, smile for me, lady. Why aren't you smiling?" This is like
she's like punch him.
But also,
Punch him.
what else would you do? I mean, are you gonna like tackle the nuance of like?
Is he gonna walk up and grab her by the pussy?
No, because that would fall under the account. That would fall under being way too obvious. There is a way of being subtle about these things and clever.
So
Be
you're
a
hoping,
little bit of clever.
But you were hoping maybe that he would come at her like a bitch.
But okay, you need to stop it, sir. I think so. You're expecting something higher, but
be thoughtful. Be thoughtful about it.
But
But
would we
Black
have?
Panther, motherfucker. Like, why would you expect something?
But would we have the woman that you so affectionately referred to as a bitch, be like, will we have those people reacting that way, or would they just be like, I don't get it. Why is he giving her a side eye, and why is he objectifying her without words? Like, no one would. That's not something that is easily accessible for a broad audience.
They can't be subtle in this movie because people wouldn't get it?
No, they can, but is it gonna hit as hard? Okay, so in Black Panther, they do what are those? They do that.
They do that?
They do that.
The real question is, what are those? Why do you have your toes out in my lap?
But you don't like my royal sandals. I wanted to go old school for my first day.
And that fucking hit.
Can you describe the scene just
So
briefly?
that's the scene, I think, with the little sister, when they get back to the lab after that first mission.
Shit.
And he sees her shoes, or she sees his shoes, and she's like, what are those? Like, that's
Fish out of water humor.
Yeah,
That's why they don't let white men in the theaters. I did not get that at all.
So there's also fish out of water humor in this movie. There's
Hit it with what? Where?
Yeah, I'm
no, there is like with her like experiencing like, well, I'm from the Cree blah 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 blah
okay.
blah.
She does have an interesting.
Let's say Blockbuster.
Right, and this movie really doubles down on 90s nostalgia. right? Like where she lands in
Yeah,
a blockbuster.
that's where bad movies usually go.
They have TLC, they have Garbage, they have all of these, like, No Doubt. They have all these throwbacks to the 90s, which are meant to ingratiate the audience, right? With the characters and the story and everything that's going on.
I thought that was one of the weakest parts in terms of establishing setting. Because if we're going to do nuance, we can do that in the setting.
Oh, no, it was shorthand. It was bullshit.
Just the music. They just had a 90s soundtrack.
The cloying 90s nostalgia was my least favorite part of the movie, probably hands down. As far as it was so try hard. I mean, even more so than the cat with the
God, fuck this movie.
You were reborn.
I keep having these memories. Something in my past is the key to all of this.
This movie did something different with the origin story, and for that I respected it.
By not having one?
No, you're wrong.
There's an origin story.
You're wrong.
That's the first,
There's an origin
hour
story
and a half
here.
of the
There's
movie.
absolutely an origin story.
Okay, maybe there is one, but I would say it's so convoluted and takes so long, I lost interest.
See, that was the appeal to me, is that it wasn't A to B to C to D. There it was this like kind of like cross section, this confluence of different moments, and then, like I was saying, there are clever things, like when she's remembering the crash land, right? Like she has the blue blood coming out of her nose, and she sees the scree guy coming at her.
We keep cutting back to that.
Keep cutting back to that, and then later on in the movie, it's revealed, oh no, she's got the red blood. Oh wait, that's fucking Jude Law. What?
You said that in the movie.
I did. I did.
Jude Law,
literally the exact same way. No, like the script, the dialogue, not wonderful. The structure of the script, though, pretty good.
So I think
I gotta say,
what kept me going for this movie was, this is the last thing I really want to say. I don't want to say anything else about this movie. What kept me going was trying to figure out what they were wanting to do with like this mystery of memory and like finding a place and belonging.
Yeah.
And it was very heavy-handed. To me, it was very heavy-handed, and it was forced, and you have to like hit all these different demographics and all these audiences and like make sure that they get what's going on. But I thought that was the value of the movie.
The twist was decent, you know.
What's
As someone who prides
Jude Law.
themselves on predicting twists, I didn't see that coming. Actually,
I kind of saw that coming.
So I feel like a superhero trope of switching the bad guys and the good guys, being like, "Oh, you didn't see that coming."
Give me an example.
Let me think about it here.
Sorry, we don't have time.
I know a renegade soldier when I see one. Never occurred to me that one might come from above.
Star Trek. Into the Darkness.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
It's not Marvel though.
Yeah, it's not Marvel. It's not a superhero movie.
It's the same type of movie. Trust me.
I did get Star Trek vibes from this movie at certain points.
Oh, yeah,
where
like
I was like, Mike is just gonna love this movie with like the weird beep, boop, beep, like
the
alien creatures.
characters look like a cheap Star Trek
Yes,
costume.
Yes.
It did look pretty
And you know what? I gotta say this too. This could have gone a certain ways towards me, like in this movie. Ben Mendelsohn, who plays the villain, at least for the first part, the guy with the ears, and then
he's from South London. He's talking like this.
He's actually Australian.
I know, but in this,
that's not an Australian accent, however.
He's coming from Essex. He's just like He's just.
What's
up,
good day, mate. My name is Ben Mendelsohn. I'm in the new Marvel movie.
Can't see that what can't. Anyways,
Kate and Leopold, baby, check it out.
That's Jackson's greatest hits.
Best episode, apparently. Can I just say what I dislike about this movie?
Yeah, we talked.
I don't know if we have time.
Just real quick.
This is a Marvel podcast.
Everything. So for me, I checked out when they started like just. You went through the first flashback scene where she's hanging upside down and she's in captivity, and I felt like they didn't put enough weight on that or didn't explain it enough to where I was interested in it. I was like, okay, they're gonna come back to that and explain it. You know, she's gonna get her memory back. I just felt like there wasn't.
But they did though. Yeah,
they did. That was the problem. It was just like I was like, oh, you know, I wasn't interested in it. I wasn't drawn in. It didn't get its hooks in me.
I keep having these memories. I see flashes. I think I had a life here. But I can't tell if it's real.
So, for both of you...
I lost interest.
One
That's
at a
what I'm saying.
time, since we've all been talking over each other. Jackson, you're going to go first. Was Brie Larson a good lead for this movie?
Brie Larson seems to me a competent actor. This script did not do her justice.
Okay.
This
Addison.
is my best interpretation.
So basically, no. Her character, she did not play her character well enough to be a good lead.
She did her best.
Okay.
There were moments where she was a little aloof, right? Where I had a difficult time nailing down exactly what she was as a person, who she was as a person rather. But then there were also these moments like when she was hanging out with Sam Jackson and they were like joking together, and I got this warmth, I got this chemistry from her where I understood her character better. I understood that maybe as a result of her experiences in life, she maybe has been taught and trained to suppress those emotions, right?
Yes.
And that kind of gave some depth to her performance for me. And that it seemed like her as a character was afraid to fully open up for the audience. And I thought it was interesting.
So, yes. You thought she was a good lead?
I did.
Brie Larson as Captain Marvel?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, I'd like to... Why don't you go ahead?
Me? Oh, I think something about the... Oops. My White Men Not Allowed poster. Just the... I kind of was... It reminded me of, like, Robert Downey Jr. being Iron Man, where he's, like, kind of, like, above it all and aloof. Kind of just like this guy who knows something that we don't.
She reminds you of Iron Man?
A little bit, just in terms of like she's not as quippy as he was, but the attitude in terms of like when there's threat, when there's danger, like when she first encounters like Nick Fury, she's like, yeah, I gotta like go get these guys. They're infiltrating your planet. Like there's a certain like brash, no, not brashness, just she's cool. She's cool as fuck.
Do you think that the backlash surrounding this movie is warranted?
No, I don't think it is, actually. Like, I don't think this movie deserves to be rejected out of hand, because honestly, I don't think like the SJW stuff is like that important. It's a bad movie.
It's not imposing. It's not imposing, the SJW stuff, anyway.
No, It's not. There's a couple like scenes where I'm just like, wow, that's really forced in there. My two examples that stick out in my mind is first the map scene where the guy's like, smile, baby. It's like there's no subtlety. They're not trying to be clever. They're trying to play into a certain like, hey, look, we included this in the movie.
But also that's a woman's experience. That's like not like men are subtle about their misogyny.
It's true.
Men aren't subtle about the misogyny, but that doesn't mean that filmmakers can't be subtle about portraying it or trying to be clever about it, which I think I'm maybe using the wrong word there. And then you also have the scene where the aliens are scanning, like, I guess each life form in the spacecraft for threats. They scan the cat, high threat.
Sorry,
they scan Nick
I'm just
Fury,
remembering that,
and they're like human male, no threat.
Yeah,
and it's just like,
hey, you got that wrong. Oh, you got that. No, that's what Nick Fury's response was. Like, oh,
I actually hadn't thought of it that way. I thought it was more of like a Sam Jackson joke where he'd be like, motherfucker.
No, they had one of those when I think he has like the cat in his hand. He's like, you mother, where they kind of.
Oh yeah, he says
yeah.
He's when he scratches
you
him in the
you
face.
mother firkin.
He scratches him in the
which
face.
is the name of the, yeah, you mother firkin.
So you guys like this movie? Is that right with the mother firkin joke?
So I want to ask Josh first. Josh, would you recommend this movie?
This requires a 2-part question like we used to do back in the day.
No.
Yes, for me.
Do it.
Okay. Sorry, sir.
No. I'm encouraging you.
Okay. I like this movie. I would not recommend it.
Why?
I don't think you need to go see this movie. I think you can get the gist of it from the trailers. If you're not crazy about Marvel,
if you don't,
I disagree, but
no, I didn't say I liked. I got the movie from the trailers.
This sounds like you hate the movie, Josh.
I like the movie. I can like a movie and also
Quit trying to
not...
swim to your side.
No, I'm just trying to ask you to
I usually
console
say
those two ideas.
I usually say I don't like the movie. I would recommend it. That's a more common thing. I do like this movie. I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't go above and beyond. It's kind of like Black Panther for me, but I think just something different. And I wasn't as hyped up. So like when I saw Black Panther, I was like, this shit actually might change everything for me. It didn't, and I was very disappointed. So I was like, fuck Black Panther. This movie, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I saw it, and I was like, okay, there's something there. Fine, I liked it. But I don't think like I'm gonna go tell people like, oh yeah, you should totally go see this movie.
Okay. So it sounds like you didn't like it enough to tell people about it?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
I'm not like head over heels. I think Addison likes the movie more than I do.
Jackson, would you recommend this movie?
No, I wouldn't recommend it. And maybe like me trying to like conflict your guys' opinion of liking it with mine makes it seem like I like this movie less than I did. I think this is a bad movie with actually a really, really, really good scene that I think is probably one of the best scenes in all Marvel movies. Which is the sequence of her gaining her full ability, and they cut to like every flashback of her throughout her life where she's been knocked down, and she gets back up.
Good character development, right?
This is the end of the movie, so she's past character development, but this is the climax of the character. But this scene is done so well that I was like, this is...
Did you get the goosebumps?
Here's why I think you secretly like this movie is because that scene that you're referring to is the culmination of what we've seen of Carol Danvers up to that point. She was kind of a cipher, right? Like she was difficult to interpret for a lot of the movie.
Oh.
And I think the purpose in that was to have more of an impact with that scene where we actually understood, oh no, like she's been rallying against this shit her whole life, and it's only been her ability to get back up that makes her who she is, that makes her as powerful as she is.
I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it.
Can I answer Josh's question real quick?
Sure.
Why is that?
Yeah,
why is that scene so good still? Is because one thing, they did have like a little sprinkling of foreshadowing in there by including the really subtle scenes of her being knocked down at the beach, her falling off the ropes in basic training, as well as like the go-kart scene, which is actually probably the most like powerful flashback that
like flipping over and
also like her dad just like charging at her and being like, that's why we don't want you to do this, and which is maybe like actually the most like SJW like empowering women scene in my opinion, which is maybe the most subtle part of it. The most clever part is her overcoming these expectations of her and like getting up time and again and becoming an Air Force pilot, which is really hard to do, and then finally becoming this.
You say that as an Air Force pilot, right?
You know, it's really hard because I fly jets every day, and every time
you put your life at risk day in and
every
day
time
out.
the cockpit closes, I say a woman will never do this.
And you say there's a reason why they call it the cockpit.
That's a scene from the movie, or a line from the movie.
And
anyways.
then immediately the dick is out.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Did I like that scene? Yes. Did I like the movie? No.
Addison. Oh, 3-part question. I like it.
Yeah.
Addison, do you want to answer the 2 or just the 1? Okay, just do your part. Your turn. Go. Do you recommend this movie?
As I've already said, I did like this movie, and I have kind of like a list, a criteria, if you will, of recommendations. This is a fucking excellent laundry movie. This is an incredible laundry movie.
Yeah, I can actually see that.
That sounds like a 10 loads of laundry out of 10.
Where like I would be folding. I'm like, man, I wish I would have watched this whole thing. This is really good.
Wait, she's getting back up? Oh my god.
I gotta say though, considering my expectations going into this, I thought it was gonna be really bad and boring and formulaic,
which it is.
I felt like it broke the formula in the structure of the script and some of the direction of the movie. I liked it, and I probably would recommend it.
Aren't you the cutest little thing? Aren't you cute? And what's your name, huh?
Gary.
What's you? I'll be back.
Wow, this has been a very
Addison's revealed himself.
yeah, Addison's like I'm gonna say the N-word while I take a picture of my dick.
Take a look at this